Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to All About Sports. After a 7-month contract dispute, the New York Jets agreed to trade All-Pro safety Jamal Adams to the Seattle Seahawks for a package that includes first-round draft picks in each of the next 2 years. The Seahawks will send safety Bradley McDougald first-round picks in 2021 and 2022, and a third-round pick in 2021 to New York in exchange for Adams and the Jets' fourth-round pick in 2022. I'm your host, Luca Vitale, and joining me today is one member of Just Talking About Sports and Matt Posner. Mr. Ethan Pollock is still in Colorado Springs, so he will not be able to join us today. But Matt, the question's for you now, sir. Which team won this deal?
This is definitely a deal the Jets ended up winning. And yes, of course, it's a big win for the Seahawks to be able to get a guy like Jamal Adams. You can't give up the next 2 years of your future here. When you have when you have 2 first-round picks, I'm always skeptical when you're giving up 2 first-round picks. It's always an issue to me. Then you throw McDougald out there in addition to those 2 first-round picks, and you're giving up a third to get Jamal Adams and a fourth. Totally not worth it. And I think that this was a decision that you will see here because of Jamal Adams' big ego. The minute the Seahawks start losing, he's going to want out of there too. This is a huge risk that the Seahawks took, and I don't think it's going to work out. You gave the Jets everything they need to really start building a team while at the same time getting rid of what was a cancer in their locker room. This was a big mistake by the Seahawks to basically throw them their assets. I think this was a big-time mistake by them. The Jets are going to win this. You just don't see it yet. This year, Seahawks win it. Next 5 years, Jets win it.
I mean, you're not wrong in some capacity, but I honestly think both teams won in a regard. I don't necessarily think this is bad for Seattle, as some people might think in some regard, because of the haul, obviously, and what the Jets receive. But remember, draft picks are only as good as the general managers and coaches use them. Who do the Jets have as their coach? Adam Gase. And Adam Gase, I've said it since day one, he should have never gotten the job.
Don't worry, he'll be fired.
Hopefully. But I do not feel confident that the Jets will turn these into something spectacular because, one, they're the Jets, and 2, they haven't been to the playoffs since 2010, in which I was in elementary school. So I don't see this even being somewhat of a win yet. Now, in order for the Jets to win this trade, they have to nail the 2021 pick. They must nail the 2022 pick, in which indicates in Jets history, will they be even able to do this? Because I don't see any history even indicating this. Now, going to Jamal Adams, the Jets did win that part because they were able to get Adams out of New York, and clearly he did not want to be there due to a lot of complications such as a lack of winning and broken promises between himself and the organization and Joe Douglas and Adam Gase. Yes, they got a lot of picks, and it looks good for the Jets, where Seattle, the GM, got rid of those picks simply because he doesn't want to be part of the 2021 draft. If I'm in the first round of this upcoming draft, and there may not even be a season for evaluating players due to the COVID-19 pandemic, I can't even imagine the difficulty of the situation.
Agreed, but at the same time, the Jets will clean house. If they play a season, the Jets are going to clean house when they realize, okay, we've got a whole ton of draft picks coming in. Adam Gase has been a failure for this organization. He has been already. And Joe Douglas, their general manager, has not gotten anything done. They're going to clean house.
Mm-hmm.
I think that with these picks, that's what I believe at least.
Okay.
Gase is on his lifeline already.
Mm-hmm.
If he makes it through the season, it's because they played well. They're not going to play well.
Okay.
So I think the Jets are ready to make a move and start rebuilding. This is the perfect time. You got 2 first-round picks in the next 2 years. Yes, it may be difficult, especially if the season ends up getting canceled. Pray to God it doesn't. But if the season does get canceled, it makes things tricky. I understand that part. But at the same time, it also means you just get to build on what you already got from this draft class. You're able to build on that with the next draft class. It's going to be a weird situation. But at the same time, it's a necessary situation. And at the time, you cannot blame the Jets for drafting Darnold. Because at the time, that would have been – can you blame them for picking him? No. We didn't know exactly what they were going to get. Now, granted, USC did not have a good history of quarterbacks. Mark Sanchez. But you can't really blame them for Darnold. And it's not like they've really messed up their picks. It's that the picks got messed up by them. Hopefully the Jets fix their ways, because if they do, this team might actually be something in a couple of years.
Yeah, and it's not just Sam Darnold's fault on the offense. Who does he even have? You got Le'Veon Bell, and then I don't even know anyone else that's even really on the Jets because they're that irrelevant. So let me tell you something right now. Let me tell you something about this. I agree with Pete Carroll's point of saying this. I think he said this along with the lines of saying we are drafting in the 20s. Then basically, what are we exactly talking about here? He said something along with the lines of that. So what I mean by that is if Adams comes in and he fixes a lot of their problems on defense, and their defense, remember, was at best mediocre last season. They were 15th last year against the run and 24th against the pass. So they need to get better at everything on defense, and Adams is a rare player in which you can put at different positions, whether it's outside linebacker, safety, cornerback, sometimes whatever you wish. But he can make you better. That's the thing. But like you said, if the Seahawks happen to have a very bad season or start out bad, because they sort of started mediocre out last year, Adams is going to start complaining. Now, the Seahawks did lose in the fact that they will have to pay him. But we don't know what's going to happen yet. I'm hoping the Seahawks are successful because we don't need more drama from Jamal Adams. And I love the Seahawks. I really do. I've always had a soft spot for them. They I don't know. Maybe it's because I love Russell Wilson so much. But for an elite quarterback and Russell Wilson at the top of his game right now, and he looks like someone that has a good chance of winning the Super Bowl now. I mean, they looked very good last season, and nobody even thought they would be 11-5. Then bringing in someone like Jamal Adams, then who knows? Maybe they will get there. But let me tell you this now. Seattle has had a reputation of building strong defenses, even without first-round picks. I mean, you got Earl Thomas, who's definitely going to be someday a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. You got Richard Sherman. He was the 5th-round pick. And then you got Cam Chancellor a couple of years ago. All those defensive backs wound up getting late in the draft. So who knows? Maybe this could be good for Seattle. But in a way, I think they'll be better on defense, but we have to see, obviously.
Yeah, and the one thing I do want to mention, too, is that it's definitely a big upgrade from McDougal to Adams. Mm-hmm. But it's not as big of an upgrade as a situation where you don't have a safety already that you know can at least play. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know. I'm very skeptical here. If this could work out really well for both teams and work out really badly for both teams, mm-hmm. This is a high-risk, high-reward trade for both. Mm-hmm. Because the Jets are relying on draft picks and the Seahawks are relying on a man's attitude. So, really, they are.
Yeah, and true. I'm not lying.
Adams is holding that defense right now. And if he crumbles, they crumble.
Right.
And the Jets lay in the balance of an unstable head coach and general manager, which can cause some instability in your draft picks. Again, a problem. We'll see. This trade, I was never a fan of when I heard it. Hopefully it works out for both teams. Mm-hmm. But I'm skeptical.
So, listen. Obviously, we know, I've already mentioned this, the Jets have a horrible history when it comes to draft picks and such like that. But if they happen to clean the house, if Joe Douglas and Adam Gase are gone, and you bring in a GM like Aaron DeCosta, like he's the GM for the Ravens, and you bring in a coach like someone, let's say Doug Peterson from the Eagles, if you bring similar stuff like that, if you bring that to the franchise, I really do think the Jets have a good chance of getting good draft picks. Now, if you have Adam Gase and Joe Douglas, forget about it. This is already a lost cause. And the Seahawks are going to look fantastic while the Jets are going to look like just a mess again. They're going to miss the playoffs again. It's been the same pattern ever since 2010. It's just a disaster waiting to happen, okay?
Yeah, the other thing I want to point out here is this. Know what the Raiders did. Their team looked terrible. And so what do? They fired their general manager and brought in a man literally tailored to the NFL draft, Mr. Mike Mayock. Yeah. Literally, that is what his life was studying drafts. Mm-hmm. That was his career. Mm-hmm. And so they made him their general manager, and look at the picks that they've assembled. Yep. Now, the Jets need to take a page out of that book. Realize that Joe Douglas isn't their guy, and they need to find a man who will work for better draftees.
Mm-hmm.
This is exactly what you need. You need a team. You need draft picks are how a team is built.
Mm-hmm.
Without draft picks, your team crumbles.
Right.
With good draft picks, your team skyrockets into a contender. This is how it all begins. Every player except for a select few are drafted every year by an NFL team. And if it wasn't for the draft, you wouldn't see the teams we have right now. This is why a general manager needs to keep an eye on the draft, needs to keep an eye on the scouts, needs to keep an eye on everything to run a franchise. You need to see the players that are playing well, and you need to draft those players. You need to have a mindset. And I don't think Joe Douglas has that.
No, he doesn't. The point is he doesn't. But the Raiders, like you said, that was a great example. You saw what Josh Jacobs did last year in that running game. The guy is fantastic. So, obviously, the Raiders, they're still mediocre, but they got ways to go, and I really think they could really build their team up. Now, is Derek Carr the answer at quarterback? I cannot tell you the answer to that because we haven't seen enough with the young talent they have. But I maybe give it one more season, and then I think they can make an ultimate decision on what direction they're going to head into.
Agreed.
All right, all. Thanks for watching another episode of All About Sports. Matt, thanks for joining me today. We'll see you later.
Of course.